and welcome back. Mr. Parker here live for today's episode of Homeschool Psychology, the talk show. And we have a fantastic episode today. We have musical guest Young Ritual, and we have special guest Hugo Richard, all the way from Australia. Hugo is the co-founder of Dystech, which is like a dyslexia startup, and they have an app. So really excited to have both of them here today to talk about embarrassment. And that is our topic, embarrassment. So what is embarrassment and what do we do about it? Well, embarrassment is a feeling, and that feeling can be a little uncomfortable sometimes. It can feel like hot red cheeks or sweating, or maybe you feel it in your neck. And embarrassment is this feeling of when we don't know what we're doing or we make a mistake and we think other people are looking at us and judging us or just thinking about the mistakes that we've made or the thing that we don't know how to do. And so embarrassment is completely natural. We can feel embarrassed when we try something for the first time. We could feel embarrassed when we slip and fall. Embarrassment is a completely normal feeling. And today I want you to hear from a couple people who have felt embarrassed in their lives, and we'll hear about how they deal with embarrassment. For me, I like to think about comedy, and when I get embarrassed, I can just laugh about it, maybe a little bit later, but being able to laugh about it and not just let it consume me and never try anything or take any risks. So while you think about today's topic, think about embarrassment is completely normal. Maybe think about some times that you've been embarrassed and some things that you've done to get over it. So here comes our special guest, all the way from Melbourne, Australia. It is Hugo. Hugo, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here bright and early at 11:30 a.m. Australia time.
Yes. Thank you. And I'm assuming it's the afternoon for you.
It's about 6:30 at night. So just getting ready for bed because I go to bed early, not this early.
Right.
So I just told him a little bit about Dystech, and I'm hoping that you can tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm Hugo, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I run a startup called Dystech. And the work that we do at Dystech is that we have developed a technology that can assess someone's likelihood of dyslexia by simply analyzing their voice and audio recording. So really what we do is we're trying to help adults and children with dyslexia around the world.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for creating something so helpful to the world.
Thank you. We hope it is, and we try make our best to make it work.
I mean, I've seen your website, and I know you, and I know it's great work. So thank you.
Thanks.
So today we're talking about embarrassment, and
Right.
I talked a little bit about it's this feeling. It can feel uncomfortable. It can happen when we do things that maybe we don't know how to do. And so I'm wondering, do you have any experience with embarrassment?
Yeah, of course I do. I don't think I'm really easily embarrassed, which I think could be a good thing. But yeah, of course, I had multiple occasions where I was embarrassed. One of the most memorable one, I think, was the very first time I gave a talk, or actually the second time I gave a talk. And so, I have this little French accent, and then I jump on the scene and I was like, you know what, I'm going to tell them that I'm sorry about the bad accent and that English is not my first language. And then straight after saying this, I quickly was embarrassed about saying this. And I was like, why am I saying this? Like, people don't really care. They care about what I'm going to talk about. So yeah, that was one of the biggest embarrassment I've had in terms of, a lot of people watching and instant regret.
Yeah. So when you felt embarrassed, what did you feel? Did you feel it in your head, in your belly, in your neck? What did you feel?
That's a great question, actually. It's interesting and trying to figure out how to describe the feeling, right? I think you kind of, for me, it's sort of inside my mind. My thoughts are confused. I'm not thinking straight anymore. I'm really thinking about people's reaction, the feeling of being embarrassed, and then what that does, it sort of blur my mind, and so I'm like, get this out of my mind, and so I keep thinking, slowly, and maybe have sort of lost my thought of trait about what I was going to say. So it's certainly something to do with my sort of my head, and like, Dad, this, I was thinking about what I was going to do next, and then there's this big thing that just came along and take place in my mind, and so it's more about the mind and my ability to think straight.
Great. So you were going to give these talks. You're super confident. It's a topic you know so much about, and embarrassment got in the way of that. It got in your head. It said, maybe you're not as good at this as you think, or maybe nobody's going to understand you. And then you stopped thinking about how good you are, and it really got in the way.
Yeah. And what happened is that I did a pose, but no one really know that it's a pose. But like, I sort of like, just did a blank, and I was like, okay, cool. I know my talk by heart. I know what I'm going to talk about. I know I've got a little bit of an accent, but no one cares, and I'm just gonna go with it, And the feeling is that the outcome of this really is that people, people's job is to censor you. So they will tell you if they cannot hear you, cannot understand what you're saying. So I'm like, why should I myself censor myself, right? Let that to the people, and let's try and get on with it.
Great. So you were using positive self-talk. Those doubts came up. They said, people are going to not understand you, and da da da. And you said, you know what? Maybe they won't, but they'll ask. And I know,
Yeah.
I know I can do this. So self-talk is something you use.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. That's correct. Yes. I've never put a word on it, but that's probably what's happening. Yes.
Great. And so with embarrassment, like I notice for me, it happens when I try something new or do something big. It sounds like it's the same for you. And I'm wondering, like, what happens? Like, do we just give up? What do we do when we have that embarrassment?
Well, first, it's okay to feel embarrassed, I think, because what that does is that it put you out of your comfort zone. All right. And, you've heard this before, like, it's always good to reach out of your comfort zone so that you can sort of extend it in some way. And extending it will extend pretty much everything in life, right? It can extend your opportunity, it can extend your emotion, it can extend all sorts of different things. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's one single person on earth who have not been embarrassed. It's gonna happen, and it's very likely that it's gonna happen multiple times throughout your life. So just knowing that it's gonna happen, and be okay with it. Giving up is a really intense things to do as a result of being embarrassed, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just a good sort of big nudge. Someone's nudging you, and you're like moving away from where you're feeling comfortable from, and then you learn from this. It's the best thing is to learn from that, and then sort of be okay with it.
Great. So embarrassment is just like making a mistake. It's like that building block to learn. If you felt embarrassed, maybe the first time you ever gave a speech, then you'd see, wow, this wasn't so bad, or these are the things I can work on. And next time you feel more confident. And so embarrassment just helps us grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is that very often you'll realize that you're the only one feeling that way. So you're embarrassed, you did something wrong, you're really stressed, you're embarrassed, and then ask the person in front of you what they think. And you quickly realize that they are certainly not in the same mindset as you. And suddenly you'll realize that you're just creating this bubble around yourself of embarrassment by yourself. And it's very, very likely that people do not feel that way. Obviously in some cases, it happened, I don't know, like, you're a waiter and then you bring a glass of wine to a client and then you drop it on the floor, right? You're embarrassed. Okay. So this is something that's happening. But, often, people don't really, it happened to all of us. So people don't feel the same way as you do. And so it's really easy to sort of like bring those emotions to a very high level, where in reality is just you making up your own sauce in some way.
Yeah. I teach this class, and in the class we talk about this theory called the spotlight effect. And the idea is that you think there's always a spotlight on you. Everybody is watching you. So whatever you do, they're watching and judging. But in reality, everybody is thinking that everybody else is looking at them. So they're worrying about themselves and not even really worrying about you that much.
Absolutely. That's a great definition of it. It's exactly a spotlight situation. You think everyone's looking at you, but in reality, someone's texting on his phone or talking to his wife or husband, and they just didn't really notice you, right? So yeah, I like the spotlight definition. That's actually a great analogy.
So Hugo, you have dealt with embarrassment. You've told us about positive self-talk and just trying it again, and then also realizing not everybody is looking at you. Do you have any more wise words for all of our viewers at home about embarrassment or taking a chance or just trying something that's tough?
Yeah, I mean, for me, what really work is just acknowledging the fact that that it's a really extreme thing to say, and it's not true. But I like to say this to myself: is that no one really care. People, when you try new things or you try to build something or do some sort of experience or whatever, it's really, really likely that people will not really care about what you're doing. They will look it up, and maybe if they're your family, they will care and maybe encourage you. But all the other people external to your day-to-day life, they would not sort of look at you, or and the only way you will really get people buy into what you're doing is when it works, right? So when it doesn't work, no one really hear, no one will look at it. It's like, okay, but when it does work, this is where everyone is looking at you. And so, trying doesn't cost anything. You're not going to get, the whole city coming to you and say, oh, what you did failed. When does that happen? That never happened, right? So what really helped me, for me personally, is just knowing that when you do something and it doesn't work, no one is there to tell you that it doesn't work, right? And so that's, for me, just make the process very easy to just try new things. And you have an idea, let's try it up, and then the world's not going to come at us and tell us that everything we're doing is not working. So really, it's about being aware of the fact that you can do anything you like, and only if you do something great that work, then you could potentially worry about, oh my God, how should I present these things? Or because people will start looking and want more from you, right? But when you fail, it happened to all of us. Everyone fell. No one looks at it, so it's okay. Just next, and then do something else. So yeah, that for me, that's really the way I go on everyday basis.
Great, I love that. So when you are creating, when you are failing, because we don't create perfect, because then we wouldn't be creating, it would just be done. And so when you're failing and when you're trying, nobody's really saying, hey, you're trying bad. All they say is like, you're trying, or they're not really paying attention. And then once you have succeeded, because you will succeed, then maybe you can be embarrassed about how you're going to present it. But then it's already so positive because you've created it. So I love
Absolutely.
that. So we should just
Yeah,
get
yeah.
rid of embarrassment. There's no point in having it at all.
That's it. That's it. I mean, at this point, I think in some way, I think that embarrassment could be good, in some very small way. Um, I come back to these things of getting out of your comfort zone. Being in situations which are really not comfortable for a short moment. That can, that sort of like that builds you up. Can you imagine a life where everything is fine? You never feel bad. You never feel a little bit stressed or a little bit pumped up or a little bit happy. And, it would be so weird, right? To have a full life where there's no ups and downs, right? So, in some small occasion, I think sometimes being embarrassed can actually help you learn better.
Great. Yeah, if everything was perfect, it'd be really boring, you know?
Yes.
And so excitement and happiness and embarrassment and sadness and all these feelings are perfectly fine to feel. And they show us that, hey, you're living a life.
Yes, absolutely. That's so true.
Wonderful. Well, Hugo, I also, you're in Australia right now, and I'm just wondering, what you guys are doing is a little bit different than what we're doing here in the States. Can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like in Australia right now?
With the current situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we broke a record last week where so I'm based in Melbourne, in Victoria, in the state of Victoria, in Australia, and we have the longest lockdown in the world. So for 4 months now, we have been restricted to our home. We can only go out for 4 different reasons. We also had a curfew during the night, and we were limited to move around to only 5 kilometer radius. So recently it's been extended to 25 kilometer radius, but we're currently undergoing this lockdown and restriction for about 4 months now. So it's been quite long. There's a lot of people who are really sort of want to get out of this. And I mean, school are open now, so there's a couple of schools that have reopened, so kids can get back to class and enjoy their classmate. But still, we're still in a state of emergency, and there's a lot of things going on in terms of restriction and what can be done and what cannot be done. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Wow. I hope that you're able to do some things to keep a positive mindset throughout kind of being confined to a small radius.
Well, look, having a chat with you is part of it. Thanks to the internet. And I've seen this quote from someone on the internet who was saying, can you imagine having this pandemic in the years 2000 where we only had a Nokia and play Snake on it? Right now, I mean, we're pretty lucky. We have internet, we have Netflix where we can watch entertainment on demand. We have all sorts of fantastic things that connect us all around the world. I mean, you're in the US, I'm in Australia, we're having a conversation. So I think to some extent, this helped. Technology has been empowering us to face those type of situation much better than what would have been the case, I think, 20 years ago. And then, of course, going on a walk every day is sort of a good thing to do as well. But apart from that, yeah, it's pretty much, keeping up and trying to keep social contact, even if it's over the internet. And yeah.
Great. Well, Hugo, I'm so happy we can connect, and I do thank the internet that we've been able to meet. And this is our second time hanging out during all of this, and I hope to many more hangouts.
Yes, absolutely. Look, thanks so much, Adam, for having me here. And it was great talking about all those things. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to catch up again. Hopefully, potentially, when travel come back, I'll come and meet you in the US.
And I would love to come out there and surf. So we'll have to do 2 trips.
That's a deal.
Hugo, thank you for being here and talking about embarrassment and sharing your stories. We're going to have the link to your website and your awesome products, and where people can hear you speak even more, whether you have an accent or not. They're not going to judge you. They love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All the way from Australia, Hugo. What a great guy talking to us about embarrassment. And he like speaks at big events and he was nervous. And so it's perfectly normal to be embarrassed because sometimes people are looking at us and wanting to hear what we say. And sometimes we can feel uncomfortable and think, what if I make a mistake? But that positive self-talk and practice and just trying it is the best way to overcome some of that embarrassment. So the next part of our show is our great weathermen, Teddy and Pocky. Teddy, Pocky, what do you got for us?
Daylight savings time. Too tired.
Yeah, those are our weathermen. All right, let's move into our kids segment. And here comes our kids segment.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Today we are playing the snow. Back to you. Back to you.
Super, super cool. The next part of our show is our musical guest. And today we have Young Ritual. And Young Ritual is going to play us a song and then talk about what embarrassment is like for him. Let's hear what they got.
She walks into the door. She's creeping on the floor, saying, when you gonna do something? Can't keep rolling out of bed, leaving you on your messy head, telling me something's coming. 'Cause what if it doesn't? We still got each other, and I know I'm always like that. So why do you even bother? And you're slowly fading, and you're slowly making together alone. Think I'll take a bath, think about what I have, and wash off some mental illness. Petrified when I get out, you'll be sitting down and wanting to talk about later. What if you're still getting groceries? 'Cause you know I hate shopping, and you know I'm always like this. I get lost in your freezer, and you're slowly fading, and we're slowly, slowly making together, together alone, together.
name's Dylan. I make music under the name Young Ritual. I'm going to talk to you about embarrassment. When I first started playing shows, no one showed up. Maybe friends here and there, but for the most part, no one really showed up. And that led me to feel like my music and my value was really low, and that no one was ever going to care about it, and made me feel like maybe I should give up because no one was ever going to care about what I was doing. And that made me feel embarrassed. It made me feel less than. But what I learned was to turn that embarrassment into empowerment. Because if I was going to play shows, it needed to be because I enjoyed playing music. And if I could play music for a couple people and they could enjoy it and I could enjoy it, then that was time well spent. And it was worth it. And shows got better after doing that, because it's kind of this beautiful thing where when you're enthusiastic about something, a lot of other people can be enthusiastic about it too. So I've actually had the opportunity to play bigger shows and more people come to shows. And it's because I learned to believe in myself, and believing in myself helped other people believe in me too.
All right, that is our show. Thank you to everybody, Young Ritual, Hugo, our kids segment, Teddy and Pocky. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Remember, it's okay to feel embarrassed. In fact, if you didn't feel embarrassed, life might be a little bit boring. So try things, and even if you don't know how to do them, that's okay, but at least you're trying. And that's our show. I'll see you next time. Bye! So how are you feeling?